My name is Joan Vandermolen. Vandermolen.
Mrs. Vandermolen, was Kitty Menendez your sister?
Yes, she was.
And during the course of your adult life, did you have regular contact with your sister?
Yes, I did.
Did you see her regularly, or was most of the contact by phone?
We saw each other infrequently, but we talked on the phone regularly.
And would these be very brief conversations, or were they long conversations?
No, they were very long, hours at a time.
And in those conversations, was your sister open with you about her feelings or what was going on in her life?
Well, I thought she was.
After her death, did you find that she had hidden a lot of information from you?
Yes.
Was she a secretive person?
My sister was very private. Her image was so important to her.
Did you find out after her death that there were things that were not going well in her life that she had kept from you?
Yes, unfortunately.
And in those regular phone conversations you had with her, were a number of them after she moved to California?
Yes, very many.
And did you visit her in California?
Yes.
And did she talk to you about the fact that she was taking medication for depression?
Yes, she did.
And did you know she was going to a therapist?
Yes.
And did she explain to you why?
The reason she told me was that she was depressed, having had to leave Princeton because she loved her home in Princeton that they had just acquired, and she was having difficulty adjusting to life in California.
Did she ever reveal to you that she had discovered that her husband had had an 8-year affair?
No. In fact, she made a specific phone call to me at one time to tell me about a conversation that Jose had had with her in which he explained that he'd felt out of place at a meeting he'd had the night before because there were a lot of CEOs there and everybody had a mistress or multiple marriages, and he said he really felt out of place because he was the only one that didn't have any girlfriends or ex-wives or anything.
And Kitty repeated this story.
Kitty
too.
told me this, and I know now that she knew different, but she made a specific phone call to me to relay this information to me.
And you were with her around the time that she bought the home in Beverly Hills.
Yes, I was with her on the day that the contract was accepted.
Did she drive you around to show you the houses that she had looked at or made offers on?
Yes, she did.
Mrs. Vandermolen, are you wealthy?
No.
Was there a substantial difference between your economic status and your sister's?
Yes.
That's irrelevant. Overall, the answer will stand.
And when you were out here visiting, she drove you around and showed you multi-million-dollar houses she was making offers on?
Yes, she did.
Did that seem important to her to have accomplished that in life or achieved that position?
Oh.
Also speculation is irrelevant.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Was there a particular statement she made which expressed to you how important having achieved this status was?
Objection calls for hearsay.
Overall.
She was very excited about getting Beverly Hills zip code. I heard the recording from the realtor when the offer was accepted, and she said, "Kitty, you finally got it. You got your zip code." And Kitty was elated about that.
Did you hear your sister express criticism or jealousy or resentment about Lyle's girlfriends over the course of this lifetime?
Objection leading and compound.
Overall.
Yes, I did.
And can you tell us in that regard what you remember your sister saying?
When Lyle got his first girlfriend, I think her name was Stacy, she was very upset. He was not old enough. It would interfere with his tennis was most of the problem, and I told her that it was perfectly normal and that she should learn to deal with that. And then at another time when he started going with Jamie, that upset the family terribly because Jamie was older than Lyle and they didn't feel that she was good enough.
Now, was your sister older than Jose?
Yes, she was.
Did she lie about her age?
Yes.
That was something she was sensitive about?
Well, she was more than sensitive. She was very, very serious about it. She took 4 years off her age when she moved to California on her driver's license, and I tried to joke with her about it, and she wouldn't do that. She was, in fact, one time Erik was in the backseat of the car when we were talking about it, and I started to make a joke about it because I really thought it was humorous. And she got very angry with me that she didn't want her kids to know how old she was. They didn't know and they weren't to know.
Were you at a tennis tournament once in which something unusual happened between Jose and Erik?
Well, I thought so.
What was that?
Erik had played and
We have
lost.
some definition as to time.
This would have been approximately 1987, 1988, is that correct?
Yeah, it was one of those years, and I can't remember which because I saw them both times. But Kitty and I had left after Erik had lost and gone to do laundry, and we were gone 2 or 3 hours because we sat and talked for a long time in my car. And when we got back to the hotel, in the meantime, Jose had taken Erik back to the hotel. And when we got back there, he was leaving Erik's room and told us that he had spent the last couple hours with Erik and that Erik was in bed and would not be going to dinner with us. And I thought it was strange because by now it was probably not even 6 o'clock.
All right. Well, that answer will stand. Your next question, please.
You indicated you felt that it was strange.
Well, it was early in the evening, and Erik had played hard all afternoon and thought it seemed that he would be anxious to get a good meal.
Did you ask anything about it?
No, for some reason I felt that it was. Well, I did ask him. Yes, I did. And he said, no, Erik prefers to just stay in bed and sleep. He has some things he needs to think about.
When you were around your sister, did you also spend time around Jose?
Yes.
And were there times when things happened that didn't make sense to you? That didn't seem to be the way they ought to be?
Well, each time that we were at their house, they would leave the room for sometimes a couple hours and say they had a meeting. They were going to have a family meeting, and I found that odd, but I didn't question it.
Why didn't you question it?
It's irrelevant.
Sustain.
Was there something about the rules in that family, about whether what was going on was anybody else's business that affected what questions you'd ask?
I guess it was just their presence, Jose's presence, that whatever he said to his family was law, and you just wouldn't ask. You wouldn't question him.
And you didn't ask?
No. It wasn't my business if they were going to go have a 2-hour family meeting, and while I was there, I thought it was unusual, but
Is this an instance when you were only there for the night?
I was there for a night or two, is all, yeah.
Now, there's been testimony about Kitty having told a friend of hers that she was going to take a trip to Quito.
Yes.
Do you have relatives in Quito?
Yes, we do.
And where is Quito?
Quito's in Ecuador.
Did Kitty have plans to go to Quito?
At one time, she talked about she would like to take a trip there.
Did she have plans in August of 1989?
Not that I'm aware of.
Would she have told you that?
Yes.
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained. Objection sustained. The answer is stricken.
When you say you have relatives there now, are these relatives on your and Kitty's side of the family or your husband's side of the family?
No, they're relatives of Kitty's and mine.
After your sister died, did you come to California?
Yes.
And were you in the house in Beverly Hills?
Yes, I was.
And did you and a number of other people search the computer?
Yes, we did.
And did you find an entry marked will?
We found will on the list, on the last entry of a list of an index.
And how many people,
Objection vacant at the time, Your Honor.
Well, I think you'll get to that.
how many days after Kitty and Jose died was this?
Just a couple of days.
It was before the memorial service
Yes, it
out
was.
here? How many people do you remember being there working on this computer?
Probably 4 of us.
And how long did you spend trying to pull up this information?
Couple of hours. Each of us had some training in computers, so we were using what expertise each of us had gained, and none of it did any good. You couldn't get beyond the index.
So
There
you
was
were-
nothing there.
So you were all, I take it, pushing some
Yes,
buttons and
yes.
doing various things, is that correct?
That's right.
And were you able to pull up the information?
No, just the index.
Did you ever go through your sister's effects?
I opened her nightstand. I
Was it on
saw a
this-
couple of family pictures there, and I also saw a letter.
No, was this on this trip that you're talking about now?
Yes.
And can you tell me about that letter?
She had written a letter to Jose, and my sister was so private, and she loved him so much, and when I saw how private and how personal and how graphic this letter was, it was just too personal, and I just folded it up and put it back in the drawer.
When you say graphic, what do you mean?
She described body parts and her love for him.
Are you talking about sexually explicit
Yes,
material?
sexually explicit, very sexually explicit.
And did you find a book also that you found to be very sexually explicit?
On her nightstand, there was a cheap paperback novel that was also sexually explicit, and my sister's image was so important to her that I just took it with me and I threw it away.
And did you find something else?
When I went back in November, among her effects in her closet was a videotape that I can't tell you why, but I felt suspicious about it, and I thought it might have something on it that Kitty wouldn't want anyone else to see, and so I took it home and found it to be a pornographic film. And I threw it away. And I never told anybody.
Why did you throw it away?
Because all that was left of my sister was the image that was so important to her, and I was trying to protect that for her. And I didn't want anybody to know, and I never told anybody.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Any examination on behalf of Erik Menendez? Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mrs. Vandermolen, how many times have you spoken to the defense in this case?
I haven't been keeping track, Your Honor.
You've been here several times in the past several months, is that correct?
I've been here twice in the last several months.
Over a period of days.
Yes.
And you've been in the company of the defense attorneys in this case, correct?
On,
Objection, Your Honor, seems facts not known.
Overall.
Is that right?
on occasion.
And you've spoken to the defense attorneys about this case?
Yes.
And you've given reports in this case, interviews, correct?
I'm going to object
What-
to vague.
Let's
Interview-
rephrase the question.
Okay. Do you remember talking to the defense attorneys where they were taking down notes?
Do you mean a couple years ago?
Well, maybe you can tell me when it was.
You
'Cause
tell
there's-
me. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
All right. Did they come to see you at some point?
Yes.
Where were you living at the time?
In Arizona. I still live in Arizona.
And who came to see you?
Leslie and Jill.
And when you say Leslie and Jill, are you talking about Leslie Abramson and Jill Lansing?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And how many hours did they spend with you?
We spent a few hours.
Okay. And this was, the best of your recollection, a couple of years ago?
Yes.
And do you remember them taking some notes down as they spoke to you?
No, I don't.
Have you seen a report? Have a moment, Colonel. Was there another time that you spoke to the defense attorneys after the time you just related to the juries?
We've spoken occasionally over the last year and a half.
And did you speak to a Dr. Hart?
Yes.
And when was that?
Last year sometime, I can't recall exactly.
And do you recall how many hours he spent with you?
No, I don't.
You never told any of those people about this videotape that you saw in your sister's closet, is that correct?
That's right.
The first time you ever said it was when you got up in the stand today?
I told Miss Lansing about it a couple of days ago.
That was 2 days ago?
A few days ago.
A few days. How long have you been here on this most recent?
2 weeks.
Now, have you visited the defendants in jail?
Yes.
And when were those visits, if you can recall?
We saw Erik and Lyle when we were here in August, and we went to visit Erik a week ago Sunday. We weren't allowed to see Lyle at that time.
I'm sorry, and you did
We
not...
saw Erik a week ago Sunday, but
Okay.
we did not see Lyle on that occasion.
Okay, prior to this year, had you visited with the defendants in jail?
No.
Had you received any calls from the defendants?
Yes.
Okay. You understand that they have phone privileges in the jail?
When you say the defense, are you referring to Miss Abramson and Lansing, or are you
I'm
talking to Lyle
about
and
the
Erik?
defendants themselves.
No, I haven't received any phone calls from them.
So you received phone calls from the defense attorneys then?
On occasion.
On how many occasions in the past 3 years have you received calls from the defense attorneys?
I can't tell you.
Numerous times.
A few.
Now, you've been in this court when testimony has been given, correct?
A couple of times.
You've been following this case very closely, I take it.
Yes.
Now, you live in Arizona,
Yes.
and do they have what they call courtroom TV in Arizona?
Not where I live.
Okay, have you been following the news accounts of what's been taking place in the court?
As well as I can.
So you're pretty interested in what's occurring in this courtroom?
Of course I am.
Okay. And it was only 2 days ago that you first told anybody about this videotape that you found in Kitty's closet, is that correct?
That's right.
Now, when you found this videotape, did you secrete it in your purse?
I was taking a few other things from her closet, wearing apparel, and I just put it in there.
So you were taking some clothing from her closet as well?
Mhm.
What else did you take?
Just some wearing apparel that we were the same size, and I took a few of her clothes.
Was this videotape the only thing that you took of that nature?
Yes.
Did you see, you indicated that you saw 2 photographs there as well. Is that
I
correct?
saw it in the drawer with the letter. There were several photographs of the family, my mother's family.
Now, were you there when the relatives went through the photographs at the house?
Objection,
We-
seems facts not evidence.
Overruled.
We didn't go through any photographs that I can remember.
Did you, other than the 2 photographs that you saw there in your sister's bedroom, did you see any other photographs at the Beverly Hills house?
Yes.
And where were those photographs?
There were photographs all over the house of my grandparents and their families.
Were there photographs of the brothers when they were young?
Who are you referring to?
Asking the witness whether there were photographs in the Beverly Hills house when the defendants were young.
Of the defendants?
Of the defendants, yes.
There were photographs in the house, in books.
Were there albums of photographs?
Maria had an album, but I don't know if it was hers or if it belonged to at the house or what.
Now, after the murders, when did you arrive in Beverly Hills?
Tuesday, I believe.
So
They died on Sunday, and I believe I got there on Tuesday.
When you got to Beverly Hills, did you go to the Beverly Hills house immediately?
No.
Okay, did you go to the hotel first?
Yes,
Okay, at some point, though, you went to the Beverly Hills house.
yes.
And you went to your sister's room and you took some clothing and you
No, not at that time.
Not at that time?
No.
Okay, during this period of time when you first got to the Beverly Hills house, were there other people there?
Yes.
Who was there?
I was there a couple of times. It's hard to remember. Probably my sister-in-law and my daughter.
Okay, let's give names.
Okay, my sister-in-law Pat, my daughter Karen, possibly my daughters Diane and Kathy, but I can't recall that specifically.
Was there anyone from the Menendez side there?
I think Carlito was with us.
Who is that?
Carlito Menendez?
Is that Carlos Menendez?
Yes.
Okay,
We refer to him as Carlito.
okay. Did you know Carlos Menendez from before?
No.
Now, at this point, when you were going through your sister's bedroom, is that the point at which you saw these photographs, the family photographs?
No, I didn't see a lot of photographs. I opened her drawer to her nightstand and saw that she had several pictures in there, and they were pictures of just a couple of pictures of our family. They were fairly insignificant, really.
Of her family?
Our family.
Okay, was it your mother?
Not that I recall specifically. I just know there were some pictures in there. I can't tell you who they were of.
Okay, but it's your recollection that there are family pictures of the Anderson side.
I believe so.
Now, sometime later, you were privy to some photographs that were at the house. Is that correct?
What do you mean?
Well, family photographs of the Menendez family.
You asking, did she see these?
Yes.
Well, there were pictures on the wall, and there were some pictures in a book later that I saw, and I don't know who the book belonged to.
Was it a album of photographs?
I believe so.
Now, were you interested in getting some photographs of your sister so that you could take it back to Arizona with you so you can remember her by those photographs?
I believe so. It's hard to remember. It's been so long ago. We were so consumed with grief. It's very difficult to remember those few days.
So you
And
think
not at that time, no.
sometime later did you see some photographs?
I wanted a copy. At one time, I wanted a copy of the photograph that was used during the memorial service. That's the only photograph I can remember asking anyone about, and that was not at that time.
When was that?
That was after the service in Princeton, sometime later.
And who did you request the photograph of?
I talked to Marzi and found out that it had been taken by a prominent Beverly Hills photographer, and I didn't pursue it at that time because I knew that it would have been too costly, and I had pictures.
At any time since the killings, have you been privy to photographs from the Menendez household, of the Menendez family?
I don't believe so.
So you've never seen any photographs?
No, I didn't say that. I'm not understanding your question.
Okay. The question is, at any time after the killings, did you take a look at any photographs of the Menendez family?
I didn't go out of my way to look at the photographs. If there were photographs on tables or on walls, or if Maria was showing me a book with photographs, I looked at it. They weren't anything that was prominent on my mind.
When you refer to Maria, are you referring to Maria Menendez, the mother
Yes,
of
I
Jose
am.
Menendez?
Yes.
And if she had shown you photographs, would that have been in Beverly Hills or in Calabasas?
Beverly Hills.
Did you at any time when you were at the Beverly Hills house see anybody take the photographs, letters, things of that nature from the Beverly Hills house?
No.
after the first day that you were in the Beverly Hills house, when, as you recall, Pat may have been there, and Karen, Diane, Kathy, and perhaps Carlos Menendez, did you return to the house sometime later?
I was there a couple of times. I don't think, in fact, Kathy and Diane were, they weren't there when we went. I think they went there once before they left to go back home because they hadn't seen the house.
Now, with regard to this paperback novel that you said you saw on the nightstand, is that the kind of novels that you see in grocery stores that people buy?
Yeah.
Did you take that with you?
Yes.
Did you read it?
No.
Now, you said that you found this letter in the nightstand next to where your sister, well, her nightstand. And she had one letter in that nightstand, in the drawer?
I did not look at the entire contents of the nightstand. I saw a letter on top, Dear Jose, and it was sexually explicit, and I was embarrassed, and I just put the letter back in the drawer.
Do you know what happened to that letter?
And I have no idea.
Have you seen any of the other letters written by your sister to Jose?
No. I'm not aware there are any other.
Now, you said that your sister was a private person, correct?
Yes, very private.
Now, she told you that she had a therapist, is that right?
Yes.
And she told you that she had to be on medication because she was depressed?
Yes.
But she did not tell you about the affair that Jose had?
No, she went out of her way to make me think that he was quite faithful.
Now, you said that you had regular contact with your sister by phone,
Yes.
correct? And you had these conversations for hours at a time.
Yes.
During the summer of 1989, how many such conversations did you have with your sister?
Once a week, sometimes twice a month, you know. Whenever we talked frequently, we didn't keep track. She talked to me from when she was in Princeton. She talked to me when she was in California, wherever she was.
Now, would she talk about how proud she was of her sons in these conversations?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Overall.
She boasted about their tennis all the time.
And she spent a good deal of time with you on the phone talking about her sons.
We talked about a lot of family, not necessarily the sons all the time.
But would it be fair to say that a good part of the conversation was about her sons?
No.
No? Now, you said that being private, she didn't tell you about her husband's affair. Was that the sort of things that you would talk about? Would you talk about problems that you had with your family of a private nature?
As often as we talked and as close as I thought we were, yes. I thought we were confidants.
Okay, and you would tell her your problems.
We were very close.
Okay, but you would tell her your personal problems.
Yes, she knew the things that were going on in my life.
Okay, of a private nature.
Yes.
Did you ever think that she was maybe embarrassed, ashamed that her husband had an affair on her? It wasn't something that she would tell you about?
I had no reason to think that because she went out of her way to make me believe otherwise.
Now, you said that she did confide in you that she was having some problems with her son, Lyle. Is that correct?
She only mentioned the problems when she was unhappy with his choice of girlfriends, or the choice of, or just having girlfriends, period, seemed to bother her.
Did she tell you about his academic and disciplinary probation that he had in the summer of 1989?
No, she didn't.
She didn't tell you about that?
No.
Did she tell you that she had been taping her son, Erik? Did she tell you about that?
What are you referring to?
In late 1988 through when she was killed.
Objection, Your Honor, since facts not known.
Why don't you clarify what you mean by
Okay.
taping?
Thank you, sir.
Are you familiar with the testimony of Erik Menendez that after he killed his mother, he found a tape in which she had recorded his conversations on the phone?
Yes.
Familiar with that?
So, excuse me, but I'm going to propose an objection that misstates the testimony was being
Just in general, are you familiar with the subject matter?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And how did you become familiar with that?
Through the course of the trial?
Had she, and are you also familiar that with the fact that Erik Menendez testified that his mother ordered him to get a girlfriend and gave him a deadline of 6 months in which to do so?
Not before the trial.
Okay. Did Mrs. Menendez, did your sister ever indicate to you that she was concerned about her son Erik?
Your Honor, I'd like to approach.
Well, let's hear the answer first. You can answer that yes or no.
Repeat the question, please.
Did Mrs. Menendez ever indicate to you that she was concerned about her son Erik?
No.
Never did?
No.
And never told you about the taping of the recordings?
No.
And never talked about wanting him to get a girlfriend?
No. I don't think she would have told me those things. I think it's bizarre.
Okay, I'll make a motion to strike that as non-responsive.
All right, that last remark is stricken.
Excuse me.
That is, your sister had indicated to you that she had problems with the girls that Lyle had. She didn't approve of some of the girls, correct?
That's right.
And she did tell you that. Did she tell you of any problems whatsoever that she was having with her sons?
When I think the question's vague, since the witnesses are in testimony.
Overruled. You understand the question?
She didn't talk to me about any problems she was having with the boys.
Now, you indicated that you in fact have relatives in Quito.
Yes.
Did you know that there was a defense witness who came in, Alicia Herx, that came in and testified that she visited your sister on August 1st, 1989, and that she said it was very strange because your sister talked about relatives in Quito and she thought your sister was a little strange. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
Well, in fact, you do have relatives in Quito.
Yes.
And in fact, Kitty Menendez, your sister, did indicate an interest in going to visit her relatives in Quito.
Yes.
I have nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
And redirect.
Ms. Vandermolen, Mr. Curiona asked you about how much time you had spent speaking with Mrs. Abramson and myself and Dr. Hart.
Yes.
Was the focus of our questions primarily your childhood background and that of your sister? In terms of the things we asked you about?
Yes.
And were you reluctant to talk to us?
Yes, very.
And do you wish to protect your family
Yes.
image?
Yes, I do. It was my sister's image to her was the most important thing in her world, and that's why I did the things I did to continue to try to protect her.
And when you failed to tell us about the videotape earlier on, why was that?
I was embarrassed for her, and I thought it would spoil her image that I was trying to protect.
Are you a very religious woman?
Yes, I am.
Irrelevant.
Overruled. The answer will stand.
Yes, I am.
I think Mr. Kuriyama's questions were sort of suggesting that maybe
Objection
you...
argumentative.
Yeah, rather than characterizing the inquiry, you can just ask a direct question.
You were asked questions about visiting Lyle and Erik in the jail
Yes.
and about not telling anybody about the video until a few days ago.
Right.
Are you lying about that, finding that videotape?
No, I would rather not tell anybody about it.
And I believe he's asked you some questions about talking to Dr. Hart.
Yes.
Did you talk to Dr. Burgess also? an expert for Erik Menendez?
Yes, I did.
Did you talk to Dr. Conti also?
Yes.
I take it you love Lyle and Erik Menendez.
Very much. I love my sister, too.
Would you lie for them?
No.
Are you lying here?
No.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Right, anything else?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You may step down. You're excused. Your next witness, please.
It's Patricia A. Anderson, A-N-D-E-R-S-E-N.
Ms. Anderson, do you know Lyle and Erik Menendez?
Yes, I do.
And how is it that you know them?
I am their aunt.
And were you married to Brian Anderson?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that Kitty Menendez's brother?
Yes, it is.
How long were you married to Brian Anderson?
Almost 31 years.
When did you first meet Kitty Menendez?
It was in my junior year of high school.
And did you continue to have contact with her throughout her life?
Yes, because of her brother, Brian and Kitty were very close, so yes, we did.
And did you happen to see an incident in which you got a chance to see the competitive nature of Kitty and Jose Menendez?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And can you describe briefly for me what that was?
It was when we were fairly young and newly married. We had gone to visit Kitty and Jose, and Kitty and I were preparing dinner, and Brian and Jose were in a chess game. Brian had gone to go to the washroom, and Jose was losing the chess game and decided to move some pieces of the chess players.
He cheated?
He cheated.
What
So-
happened when Brian came out of the
When
bathroom?
Brian came back from the washroom, he approached Jose and asked if he had moved some pieces of the chess players, and Jose said no, and Brian said, yes, you did. And Jose said, are you accusing me of cheating? And Brian said yes, and so with that, they got into a wrestling match in the front room.
And did somebody break up that wrestling match?
Yes,
Who was that?
Kitty.
And how big is Brian Anderson?
Brian is about 6'1" to 6'3". I don't, right around there. I don't really remember, but right there. So over 6 foot.
And about how tall was Kitty?
Kitty was a little bit taller than myself, and I'm 5 foot. So I would say Kitty's like 5'4" or something like that.
Was there an incident in 1986 in which you had an opportunity to observe Lyle Menendez playing tennis in a tournament in Kalamazoo?
Yes, ma'am.
And was Jose Menendez there?
Yes, he was.
And can you tell me what his behavior was during the time that Lyle was playing tennis?
In the beginning, he sat very comfortably next to us on the stands that we were watching Lyle. And then for some unknown reason, he started acting like a wild animal. He got up and started pacing the area around the court, and he was calling out calls for Lyle to do on the court, different ways he should hit the ball and that type of thing, which is not acceptable in these type of meets.
And did something happen as a result of that?
Yes, ma'am. The officials had to come over and tell him that he was not to do this. And in the beginning, he listened, and then as soon as they went away, he went right back to do what he was doing before, which was telling Lyle what to do in the game.
And what happened at the end?
Lyle had lost the game, and Jose was just irate about the whole thing.
When you say he was irate, what was he doing?
The expression on his face, he was very upset. He kept on pacing back and forth outside of the court. And what happened was Lyle stayed in the court. He didn't want to come off the court. And we were still sitting in the stands.
When you say we were still sitting, who was still sitting?
Myself, Kitty, and my ex-husband, Brian.
Okay. And so Lyle's on the court, he doesn't want to come off, and what happens?
Jose went into the court and proceeded to drag him off the court. He was very upset with him, and he was swinging his arms around and throwing...
When you say he, who are you talking about?
Jose.
Okay. Okay, so he's swinging his arms around.
Yes, and he grabs Lyle by the arm to pull him out of the court. I, at that point, because my sons were in competition with different things, I was going to go down and just tell Lyle that I was very sorry that he had lost, and with that, Kitty held me back and said, no, we were not to go down there, which I thought was very unusual, but...
Why did you want to go down there?
Well, being a mother, I was just going to go down and just give him a hug and tell him it was all right, even if he lost. I mean, you can always try the next time.
He was about 18 years old at this time, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, right about that, yes.
Okay, so Kitty restrained you from going down there. What happened next?
Jose then took Lyle, and they walked ahead to the car, which was parked in the parking lot. And we then followed, but we were many, many steps behind.
And could you see what was happening?
Well, Lyle's head was down, and Jose was constantly talking to him and pulling him along by his arm, and I could not tell you what they were saying because we were not that close.
Did you eventually arrive at the car?
Yes, we did.
And were Lyle and Jose there already?
Yes, they were.
And what happened in the car?
In the car, Lyle was sitting in the back seat. It was like a minivan, and Lyle was sitting in the back seat, and we got into the van, and we were going to go back to the hotel, and I turned around to give my condolence to Lyle about losing, and Jose told me I shouldn't do something like that.
How did Lyle look?
Lyle looked like an animal that had been thrown on the side of the road. I mean, his head was down, he was very sad, and he didn't say anything.
Were you also present in 1989 at Kalamazoo when Erik was playing?
Yes.
And was Jose there as well?
Yes, he was.
And what did you observe there?
In that meet, it was in the back courts. And what happens is that there's like seating and then a pathway to walk, and then the courts are right there. Erik was playing, and his back was to us, and Jose was giving him commands of what he should do. Erik was playing the second seed, and so if he won that, he would have a chance then to play the next seed, which would have been the first seed. What had happened then was that for some unknown reason, Erik started losing, and Jose got very, very upset, and he was moving closer to the net, or the fencing, and with that he was getting louder by giving his commands to Erik, and the officials were called.
What did the officials do?
The officials came over and told Jose that he should sit down, that he was not to be near the courts, that it was not permitted, and that he was not to give any kind of directions, that he was not the coach, and that he was the father, and the father knew what the rules were. The rules were to sit down and be very quiet.
And did he sit down and become very quiet?
Well, the official left, and Jose sat down for a minute, got up and laughed, and did not listen to what he said, and proceeded to go back to the court area, which was right next to the fence area there.
Did Erik win or lose?
He lost.
And what happened after he lost?
There was one other incident that I should tell you about, too, there that happened was...
No question pending.
What,
Ask another question.
was there another incident that was of significance to you?
Yes, there was.
Could you tell us what it is?
What had happened was that after the official left and that Jose was then giving more directions, Erik was in such an emotional state that he turned around and told his father to shut up. And he said it very loudly, and it stopped everybody around the whole areas. There were games going on, okay? There were like 15, 20 games going on. And what had happened was it was so loud that it shocked everybody. And Jose with that then threw up his hands and just said, I'm washing my hands out of everything. I just don't want any more thing to do with him. I can't stand this. He doesn't listen to me. And he said, that's just it. Kitty, in the meantime, sitting next to me, was just a nervous wreck. I mean, she had a tendency of gripping her hands and gripping her teeth to the point that she was actually white.
You
From
said
nervousness.
gripping her hands, you just made two fists.
Two solid fists, and then I cannot do the exact description, but she would just grind her teeth like that, and that's how she was. But she was also very, very, very white, because by that time she had been holding her breath and everything because of this incident that just had gone on. Erik had then lost, and then in the meantime, Jose had just left for just a few moments and came right back, only to discover that, of course, Erik was losing. And he was then very, very upset.
How did he demonstrate that he was very, very upset?
We went into the court, and he actually was pulling Erik out of the court and just even left his bag and everything on the court. He was so upset with him. I was sitting right there, and as the door was right there in front of me, I was going to go up to Erik and say that, everything was fine. He tried his best. He really did try his best. But with that, Kitty pulled me back again, the same type of thing that I experienced many times with Lyle when we had gone to the different meets, that I was not to go up and talk to Erik at all, because his father was there.
Did you feel sorry for Erik?
Yes, I did, extremely. He was like a little bird that lost his wings. I mean, he was very upset, and he was scared. And the fright in his face was you just didn't miss it. It was there.
Okay.
Jose pulled him off the court and pulled him right across all the other courts and took him up the stairs. We were on the lower level of the tennis areas. And he pulled him up. By that time, Kitty went out to collect everything off of the tennis court, and we then followed.
Now, in either of these circumstances, did Kitty try to step in and intervene between Jose and
No,
either
never.
Lyle or Erik?
Never.
Okay. So she went on the court and collected?
She collected everything, and we then followed her, and we went to the vehicle that we were in.
And what happened then?
We then went back to the hotel.
Were you all staying at the same hotel?
Yes, we were. Usually what happens is that we always went to support the boys in the meets in Kalamazoo, because we lived in Chicago at that time. And what would happen is Kitty would get us a room not too far from their room on the same floor.
So you all went back to the hotel room?
Yes, we did.
And was this in the morning or
No,
late
this was late afternoon, and we were then going to get ready for dinner.
Okay. And did you proceed to get ready for dinner?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And did you then go or have some contact with Kitty and Jose about going to dinner?
Well, I had to go to Kitty and Jose's room because it then got to be very late. It was originally like around 6:30, and it now was getting on to be 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I was extremely hungry. It's been a long day. And I knocked on Kitty's door of their room, and Kitty was in the room, but there was no Jose. And she said that he was down in Erik's room.
Did Erik have a room in the same hotel?
Yes, he did. If I can remember right, it was like about 2 to 3 rooms down from their room.
Okay. So she told you that Jose's in Erik's room.
Correct.
What happened then?
She then said that we had to wait until Jose came out of Erik's room before we could go to dinner.
So did you wait in her room or return to your room?
No, I went back to my room.
And did you subsequently get information that Jose was now back?
What had happened was I had to go there one more time. I went back to her room and said, Kitty, it's really getting very late. Why don't we just go down to eat? And she said, no, it'll only be a few more moments. Jose should be coming out of his room.
And how much time before Jose did come out of Erik's room?
If I can remember right, it was like around 8:30 or 8:45.
And what happened then?
We then were walking down the hallway, and...
When you say we...
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
It was Kitty, myself, Brian, and Jose, the 4 of us.
Okay.
And what happened then was we said we would like to go in and see Erik to at least tell him that we thought the game was very well. We were sorry that he lost. Jose made fun of that, but as we were there in front of the room, he said, well, okay, Erik is in his room, and he will not be coming to dinner with us. So he opened the room, and
Who opened the room?
Jose did.
Did he have a key?
Yes. And when he opened the room, we looked in, and it was a short hallway like you would have like in a Holiday Inn or something like that. I looked in the room, and it was very dimly lit, and Erik was in bed.
How did he look?
He looked very sad, and you could tell something was wrong with him, okay? He didn't want to speak to us, and I was going to go over and give him a hug, and I was told that I shouldn't do that Erik just didn't want people to hug him.
Did you then leave the room?
A few moments later, Uncle Brian wanted to give Lyle his little positive philosophy.
Lyle or Erik?
I'm sorry, Erik.
Okay. So Brian, that's your husband, their
Yes.
uncle, wanted to say something?
Yes, he wanted to go over and talk to Erik and give him, the positive that if you don't make it the first time, you can do it a second time, that type of thing. And he did. He got over there, and he did talk to him.
Then did the 4 of you go down to dinner?
No, what happened then was for some reason Kitty said she had to go back to her room, so it was just Jose, Brian, and myself that went down to the restaurant area.
Did Kitty join you sometime later?
She did, but it was much later.
And did anything unusual happen?
Yes. What happened was that Brian and Jose were in a conversation and kidding one another. Every time they got together, they always harassed one another about that chess game that always came up every time we were together. And Jose was talking about other things pertaining to his business, and he was in the process of purchasing a video place or something like that, and so he and Brian were in that discussion, and they were talking about porno tapes and that, and how his company didn't want the porno tapes. At that point, Kitty came to the table, and Jose made fun of her because she was so late, and it upset her, but she did sit down because I was sitting with one seat which was to the right of me, which would have been for Kitty.
Now, when you say made fun of her, was this just some sort of loving teasing that was going on, or?
No, I don't think so, because I had seen him do this other times where he would humiliate her in front of people, even if it was family.
Okay. And so did she sit down?
She sat down, and they were in a conversation. I tried to get into a conversation with Kitty, but she was not with us. She was staring off, like in a daze or just staring. I had seen her do that other times.
When you say staring, you say something to her and then she'd snap out of it, or?
No, this time she didn't. Sometimes she did, but this time, no. This time it was like wherever she was at, there was no getting her back, and I grabbed her arm and pulled it, and eventually she came back from wherever she was at. She was in deep thought about something.
Now, on this same trip, had you had a conversation with her about your own pending divorce?
Yes.
Objection, this is irrelevant, right?
You're going to tie it into something?
I am.
All right.
Did she express anything to you about her feelings about her own marriage?
Yes, we were.
Hearsay?
Overall.
We were going fast walking, and I was telling her at that time that I was seeking a divorce from her brother. And she said that she wished that she could have done something like that. And I asked her what did she mean, and she just said, just never mind. She said, I'm glad that you've got the courage to do it. I wish I did.
Was Kitty normally a pretty forthcoming person, pretty open?
No, Kitty was a very secretive person.
After Kitty and Jose Menendez died, did you go to their home in Beverly Hills?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you present at the time that there was an effort to get information out of a computer?
Yes, I was.
And how many people do you remember being there?
Myself, my sister-in-law Joan, Carlos
Menendez?
Carlos Menendez, yes, and my niece Karen, and I want to say one or two other, but I can't really tell you. I remember those people for sure.
And how many hours did all of you spend working on the computer?
It was a couple hours because what happened was it was getting dark, and Carlos wanted to leave before it got too dark, and we had been on it at least for a couple hours.
And were people constantly pushing buttons and trying to get information out?
Yes, ma'am. What happened was on the computer it said will, and then when you got that up on the menu, it asked for the code word, Kitty's code word. And so everyone was trying to push in different codes of dogs' names or things that they knew about Kitty and this type of thing, but we could never, so it was push the thing in. And I didn't know that much about it, but the little bit I did know, we were all taking turns at trying to put the different things in and pushing the different keys that were on the computer.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, I'm just going to shift position what you said. I just play musical chairs. I just want to see it.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Would it be accurate to say that none of the people there that were working on the computer at the Beverly Hills house knew what they were doing on a computer?
Not really. Each of us had just a little bit of computer experience, so really no, I would say no.
Okay. You were indicating that your ex-husband now
Yes, sir.
is Brian, and he was very close to Kitty. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, he is.
Do you think that they were the closest in that family of the siblings?
Between Brian and Kitty, yes, I would say they were very close, uh-huh.
And were they the closest in age?
Yes, there was only 11 months difference between them.
Now, you were indicating that you lived in Chicago during the time that the brothers went to the Kalamazoo tennis matches?
Really, it's the suburbs of Chicago, but yes, in Illinois itself, yes.
Okay.
Not
And
Chicago.
Was that just a couple of hours? Your husband is the one that has the airplane.
Correct.
So how long would it take you to get from the suburb of Chicago to Kalamazoo?
I would say maybe an hour and 10, 15 minutes, depending on the winds, if we had tailwinds or headwinds.
Would it be typical that when the Menendezes would come for the tournaments in Kalamazoo, that they would stop in Chicago and then fly with you and Brian to Kalamazoo, or would they fly into Kalamazoo and...
No, they would come and stay with us because Kitty would then get them coaches to get more practice in before they went to the tournaments. And then Kitty always drove them because we never flew them.
Did you know of any other parents that were so involved with their sons in sports?
Objection, Your Honor.
Grounds of relevancy?
Yes.
Objection sustained.
Would it be fair to say that the Mr. and Mrs. Menendez were very involved in their sons' sports?
In their sports, yes.
And is it your understanding that they would go to all the matches that the brothers had?
Objection, Your Honor, beyond her personal knowledge.
Rephrase the question.
Is it, what is your understanding about the relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Menendez and their sons as it relates to their tennis?
Your Honor, I'm going to object again beyond her personal knowledge. Calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
The things that I knew about was just what I could tell you that I knew of Kitty when she came to Illinois. And she would be there most of the time. I could not tell you about Jose because I think there was only 1 or 2 times that I can remember that he came when they came to Illinois.
When Jose and Kitty and you and Brian were sitting up watching, first of all, I believe it was Lyle in 1987, was that the
No,
tournament?
86. 86,
During the periods of time when Jose would be seated rather than up along the sidelines and yelling instructions, would he and Kitty be cheering for their son?
No, Kitty never said anything because I was told, I did not know much about tennis, okay, but the first time I went, I gave out a big rah-rah, okay, and I was told I was not to do that. That was not the proper thing to do. Kitty never ever said anything. She always sat there with her hands gripped like that with the expression on her face that I showed you, okay? Jose, in the meantime, wasn't giving hurrahs for his sons. He was giving more directions, okay? I personally had not really saw them that I can remember in all the years that we had gone for both boys.
So the years that you went to see these tournaments, no one was supposed to cheer or yell out from the audience. They're supposed to be quiet.
Correct, because otherwise you disturb all the other players.
And so Jose probably stood out then as he was running up and down the sidelines yelling out instructions.
Yes, he did.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Now, because of the nature of tennis, I take it, and there wasn't, it wasn't proper to cheer out loud. When Erik Menendez in 1989 yelled out to his father to shut up, and you said that there were like 10 or 15 games going on, and everyone just stopped and looked?
Not actually stopped, but you could tell that there was a heavy air in the whole area because it shocked everyone.
Now, Erik was upset with his father, wasn't he?
I would say yes, only because his father had been badgering him through the whole game.
Now, with regard to, and this is in August of 1989?
Yes, sir.
Now, when Mr. Menendez, Jose said, "I'm washing my hands in this boy, he doesn't listen to me," did he say that out loud?
Yes, he did.
And did he turn to his wife, or did he just How did he do that?
He was standing right by the fence when he came back, and Erik had told him that, and he turned around to Kitty and said that.
Did he appear to be frustrated?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Sustain.
Did he appear to be disappointed?
Same objection.
Sustain.
Was your husband with you when you got back to the hotel?
Yes, he was.
And when you wanted to see Erik, was your husband with you?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so at some point, you said that your husband actually went over and spoke to Erik to try to cheer him up, to try to encourage him to do better the next time.
Yes.
Were you with him during that
I was like
conversation?
in that hallway, like you can imagine like a Holiday Inn, how they have that small hallway before you go into the room.
Mm-hmm.
I was in there, and Jose went in first, and then Brian, myself, and then Kitty. So Brian, of course, is a big individual. His shoulders are very wide, and so as Jose moved aside, and Brian went into the room then where Erik was in bed.
What time of the night was this?
It was 8:30, 8:45.
So you were going to have a late dinner that night?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if Erik had more than one match that day?
I want to say yes, because I'm trying to, because see, that day, with the day before that, he had played a couple, and I can't remember if that second day on that Sunday, if he had played two or not. I can't. All I know, it was very, very hot.
Okay. Is it your understanding that that type of tournament, you keep playing, and at the first game you lose, or first match you lose, you're out of the tournament?
No, Erik was also going to play the next day, which was Monday.
It was kind of
And
a double elimination setup then?
I believe so, yeah. I really don't understand too much about it.
Okay.
All I know is that the next day on Monday, Erik did play and he lost again. So at that point, he was going to be playing another one in the afternoon, and we went home that day because my husband then came back that next day to pick them up.
So it was very hot, and it's your recollection that he had more than one match on that particular
Objection,
day?
misstates your testimony.
Sustain. Rephrase the question.
Yes. Do you recall whether or not he had more than one match on that day?
Ask and answer.
Overall.
It was the afternoon. I want to say yes, he probably did. Okay.
I have nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Just a minute. After Jose made this statement about washing his hands of this boy, meaning Erik, he then proceeded to spend the next several hours with him. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I would say that it was at least 3 hours.
And when you went into the room before you went to dinner, how did Erik look?
Erik was in bed. The room was dimly lit. He had like a couple of blankets over him, like he was cold. And his face was like a very blanked look. And we were told that he was writing in his diary. And I thought it was very unusual that I was told also that he wrote in his diary and that he wrote everything.
Well, my question is, did he look like somebody who was just tired from a long day and wanted to get a good night's sleep, or did it look like something else was going on?
No,
Sustain. The answer is stricken.
Did he look just tired, or did he look upset when you looked at his face?
Sustain.
Did anybody explain to you, you said that Jose said that he wouldn't, that Erik wouldn't be coming down to dinner?
Correct.
Did he say, well, he needs a good night's sleep for tomorrow?
No, he just said that Erik was upset and that he would not be coming to dinner with us.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Anything else?
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. May step down. You're excused. All right, and you'll have more witnesses tomorrow morning? Okay, we'll be in recess until tomorrow morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have both juries back at 9 o'clock. Don't discuss the matter with anyone. Don't form any final opinions about it. And we'll see both jury panels back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.